What's up, guys? Now, usually I preface this with some sort of meme or snarky remark, but let me take a minute of your time to actually talk about the Legendary banner, because I don't usually cover these in videos anymore, so feel free to use this as advice if you need be. Blue and red are good. Colorless and green are generally not, unless you need merges on those units. Now that's as much of a TLDR as I can do, but generally speaking, old legendaries or old mythics should not be picked up unless you already have them as mid-merge projects at this point. Units like Seliph and Chrom, even at mid-merges, outperform and outscore older ones. So I just wanted to give you guys like a minute of my time. Of course, I cover this on Twitter and Twitch all the time, so without further ado, let's jump into Seliph for the video. Hey guys, Akariss here. Welcome to a brand new Fire Emblem Heroes video. Today's feature will be Legendary Seliph. Long overdue for a lot of the people, the vocal minority at least. Off the face of this video, of course, I'll go through things that I always cover in these analysis, which are basically he's a Earth Legendary Hero and what that means for the metagame, how you can use him, some partners, and what I think of him overall for a ranking between the other ones. So, stats and skills. Skills are actually pretty underwhelming. He is unique a little bit, but he kind of just has a bunch of weak effects from my point of view. So his weapon is conditional in a way that doesn't really help him. It kind of just locks him into a sort of enemy phase build. He takes some damage and he can kind of start going, but there is some anti-synergy because he's tanky and attacking heals him. So if he ends up post-combat back to full health due to his weapon, he actually just like doesn't have a player phase at all. And like his B skill is pretty much enemy phase. So it's kind of awkward, and considering the sort of legendaries we've gotten recently, Chrom, I'm looking at you, he's not that, honestly doesn't look that good. He's pretty much Rid on Earth Season. In fact, his stats pretty much look like Rid's. Just a couple more extra points due to being released later. Now he is a pair up, so he does have that going for him. So he will score pretty well, unlike Rid individually. His skill set is max scoring other than a rally and a special, so he's actually pretty easy to invest into for the most part, unlike some other legendary heroes who may not have such a, full kit. Like Edelgard, even though she got released recently, doesn't have a full kit and would require some pretty high investments, but like Seliph doesn't, so he's interesting in that regard. But his stats are kind of whatever. Again, it kind of locks him into like an enemy phase build and doesn't give him much player phase potential. I could definitely see some like plus speed Seliph builds being a thing, and that could be pretty good with his B skill, to be honest. But you got to do some crazy things to make that happen, and the support would be ridiculous to get there. So I'm not super impressed by him from an initial impression. But we'll see where he goes from here. He is fairly usable as a one-off, though, because of his kit being complete from the get-go. And I'll cover that in just a moment. So, yeah, we got what I would consider a sort of like one-off, and I'll use him during Earth Season, overlapping with an AR. So this is like an AR build. He wants to be supported by Lancina. I think that would be like his best partner. You can use Matilda as well, actually, and she can run Ward or Goad Cav, and I think that's pretty good as well, but the special would be different. The special doesn't need to be noontime, and the reason for that is because his weapon heals him. I've recently been using Ashnard as a main tank, and he's been doing pretty well, and he's pretty similar, honestly, like in terms of what they do. So I could definitely see Seliph working even at low merges just because of how many effects he has on his weapon. He's got healing, He's got flexibility in the special, so even at low merges, I see him working for AR as a main tank with the right support. But the thing is, I want to just point out that he is seasonal locked, and therefore he's not a consistent tank. You kind of need to have overlap between Astra or Light with Earth, and that's what will hold him back. But I think if you don't have like a decent tank or just want to try this guy out, he'll definitely do pretty well as a one-off or a +1, definitely. And don't be afraid to try it, because like honestly, he doesn't have much investment to get him going for that sort of build. One thing I want to mention, and it's fairly unique to him and a couple of other units, but this is especially important for Cavs. Any Cav can realistically run double QR, but the thing between Seliph and the other Cavs running QR is that he is almost guaranteed to get kills because of double QR. When you give any other Cav like double QR, they would maybe miss the kill, whereas he's got like a desperation effect with his B skill on the enemy phase, which is unique to him, but again, not good enough. And the reason for this is because double QR is pretty much a means to beat impact skills. So like if you're in a 30 impact, double QR beats that, even though he has low speed. What I like about it though is that you pretty much don't need like fear stance, or you don't need an HP attack seal or something like that. And double QR is guaranteed to kill as long as you don't run into null follow-up, and that's the biggest problem. That null follow-up, if an enemy has it, he will pretty much get shut down. But it's still unique to him and worth mentioning, and isn't a complete meme, believe it or not. You could definitely get away with this because there are impact skills all over the place in AR. Elwood comes to mind, and tons of other range nukes would definitely be running impact. So if he has double QR, he's guaranteed to pretty much double back and kill these units, and that's with minimizing damage due to his B skill. So definitely an interesting option. Finally, and of course because he's an arena unit, he has potential in arena. So in arena, I would recommend just being able to beat the other common Earth legendaries as consistently as possible. Believe it or not, this isn't as easy as it sounds because he's locked into enemy phase. So you have to make sure the build you give him does just that. Or you give him a partner which covers his weakness. So I'm going to display Echidna as being an actual pretty good partner with him to cover basically Julia, because Julia beats him, and there's not really much you're going to do there to kind of stop that. I mean, he probably could beat Julia, but it's going to hurt real bad, and he probably dies in most cases. Now, what is important here is Ruptured Sky to beat Tiki, because with Ruptured Sky, he does beat Tiki pretty handedly. And with Alm, Alm's base kit has null follow-up, which is a big problem for Seliph, but with enough like drive attacks or possibly debuffs on Alm using maybe Ruse or Panic Ploy, Seliph can one-shot and kill him back. So that is going for him pretty well. But again, you got to tailor the build to doing that, and it does require specific fodder. Otherwise, Seliph may underperform for you. He's not terrible though, and as long as you run like a decent green and like a player phase unit like Echidna, for instance, or even Raven if you have that guy, he will get, he'll do pretty well. Not a terrible option if you don't already have an Earth Legendary core. Thing is, I feel like most of the other Earth Legendaries are better. So unfortunately, Seliph is going to be the highest scoring Earth Legendary, but that doesn't necessarily make him the best. And with that being said, I definitely want to take a look at how I feel about all of them overall. So I'll leave his stats and skills here, the base stats, you can look at them. But basically, this is what I think of the current Earth Legendaries. New isn't always better. Seliph probably ranks, in my opinion, in rank 3. Alm is still, in my point of view, the best one. He's got armor penetration that ages really well, and he's colorless and a bow. Okay, that doesn't get much better than that. He's usable in lots of modes: PvE, AR, defense, nightmare unit. He can be used in AR offense as well, and Alm is just super flexible. Arena, you have a range unit that's going to get kills consistently for you. So Alm is by far, in my opinion, the best Earth Legendary, despite him actually scoring lower than quite a few of the other ones, but that doesn't matter. You know, performance is huge and flexibility in different modes. And when I rank these Earth Legendaries, it's not just score, it's definitely performance in all the modes. Score is a factor, but not the biggest one. With that being said, though, Julia in second place is what I feel for most of the reasons on Alm, but unfortunately she's locked into being blue, and you know, doesn't really have like as much power against new units as, let's say, Alm would. So she gets to be in second place. She does score decently as well. I believe now second behind Seliph, but still not a bad option. And that finally leaves Seliph in third place. Seliph is pretty much just an enemy phase beast, and that's really all he is. But just being an enemy phase beast isn't good enough in current Fire Emblem Heroes gameplay meta, so unfortunately that's where I feel about him. He scores really well, and if you're looking to just score, then sure, he might be your highest priority, but that's assuming you don't have any merges on other of the Earth Legendary Heroes. Finally, and probably the most surprising to most people, I actually feel like Grima is fourth, and the reason for that is despite her scoring significantly lower than the other ones, she is good in pretty much a lot of the modes still, despite her having lower stats. She can tank really well. She has the stats to player phase, should we finally get some breaths that are player phase-able, like you can actually player phase units. And yeah, like AR offense, she's good. She's really weak in defense. AR defense is probably the only place that she isn't that great, but she is a flyer, so, you know, enabling ground orders, for instance, and guidance in arena is huge. She still will get you, you know, high scores because she blesses other units. And she does provide that speed blessing, which of course the new pair-up legendaries don't do, so that's a really good one. Yeah, so, you know, Grima's only weakness is pretty much just dragon effectiveness, but being colorless is good and hitting res is good. So I do feel like Grima is solid place in fourth, despite scoring low. That's pretty much her only weakness so far. Finally, Tiki in fifth. I am a user of a +10 Tiki, and it is honestly suffering to try to use her effectively. She doesn't have any other place other than being a score bot in arena. Despite whatever builds I try to do, she's not beating Julia. I'm glad she's going to have a good matchup against Seliph. That's a saving grace for me, but realistically, she almost barely gets the kills on Alms, even though Alms has low res and takes a huge chunk of damage. And that's with a plus attack IV +10 with support behind her being like drive attack with attack bonds. Like, Tiki is barely good enough to do her job right, and that's why I put her. Basically, the only thing that keeps her being above Ike is the fact that she scores really well. That's like the only saving grace for her. I'm not a huge pusher of that, and I would recommend pretty much any other legendary over her if you had the choice. She does share with a lot of other good choices, and that's why she ends up being there. Plus, she's a favorite, I assume. Finally, Ike. You know, Ike might end up being good later if they finally decide to give distant counter refines, and if they were to, of course, do that, Ragnar would hit a refine, and then I feel like he'd be a lot better. So that's worth mentioning. But, you know, the thing is, even if that were to happen, he still scores not that well. You have to use R dual infantry for him to score. I mean, he does have distant counter on his weapon, which is cool and all, but he has terrible matchups against pretty much every single other Earth Legendary, and I don't even think he'll be beating Seliph on enemy phase without some very specific build. He's even worse than like Resplendent Ike at this point. So like Ike's only job right now is pretty much to provide blessings to other units, and that's really not that great of a job. And I just hope that he gets something to save him out of 6th place, because I really don't feel too good about anyone who's using Ike right now. You got to do some crazy things to make him work as an Earth Legendary hero. That's pretty much what I think. So Seliph is maybe like a fan favorite if you like Seliph, but maybe Sigurd deserves this more. Who knows? Feel free to argue that if you want to in the comments below. Yeah, that's really all I got to say about Seliph. So if you don't have an Earth Legendary core, he's not a bad option. He's not really the best option though if you play multiple modes, but you know, he could actually work with low merges, and that's saying more than a lot of other legendaries. And definitely even at mid merges, he scores pretty well, and with the kit to boot without much investment. So, you know, he's got things going for him. With that being said, guys, thank you for watching. Give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Much love. Peace.